Hey everybody, for those of you who don't know who I am, my name is Aaron Spink. I am a drummer, educator, clinician, and performer in the Greater Toronto, Ontario area of Canada. So if you're as big of a Vinnie Colaiuta fan as I am, you'll probably be familiar with the Flam Seven or the Vinnie Flam Seven, which I believe the first coining of this was from Austin Burcham, who has a YouTube channel called Study the Greats, where he breaks down Vinnie's performance from the Modern Drummer Festival 2000, where him and his band are performing I'm Tweaked / Attack of the 20 Pound Pizza. And in Vinnie's drum solo, he's performing a part, or part of his solo has a phrase in it which Austin coined as the Flam Seven. Well, today we're going to focus on a different pattern from a different drum solo, and I'm going to coin this one the Flam Five because it's very closely related to that Flam Seven, but it's going to have a little bit of a different tweak to it. And on top of that, I'm going to show you and tell you why I think that the Flam Five is actually more difficult to perform than the Flam Seven. But first, let's go through the actual part where this is from. So I'm going to break that down for you first, right here. So the solo I'm referencing here for the Flam Five is Vinnie's drum solo from the song Actual Proof, performed with Herbie Hancock, from, I want to say, a performance that they did in Switzerland sometime in the mid to early 2000s. Now, back when I first saw this solo, YouTube wasn't a thing. So I had to get a burnt version of this on a DVD that was given to me by my teacher at the time, Paul DeLong. And for those of you who don't know who Paul DeLong is, go check him out. Very world-renowned drummer from Toronto. That's all I'm going to tell you. Go check him out. But when I was studying with Paul, we worked on a lot of different phrases and concepts and basically solo ideas. And a lot of Vinnie's playing came up. And he showed me this solo, or gave me a copy of this solo, and I watched it. Now, back then, I was still learning, the tools of the trade and a lot of these different concepts that I would eventually learn and develop on the drum set. But back watching that solo, I think I was around in my early 20s. I won't tell you how old I am now, but I was in my early 20s then, and just watching that solo, it was inspiring, but I had no idea what was going on. So fast forward years later, I'm going through that solo recently and transcribing it, and I picked out a little bit of a part in there that I heard and just kind of watched and wanted to break down and understand more about it. And when I totally analyzed it, I realized how similar it was to the Flam 7 that Vinnie has done in the Modern Drummer Festival video that I referenced before. So I'm going to put a link in my description of a version of that video that you can go watch. And the part of the solo that I'm going to perform here that has that variation of the Flam 5 in it is right near the beginning of the solo. So it's about starting around, I think, bar 4 of the actual solo. And I'm going to play the phrase here on the kit first, break it down slowly, and show you basically how it goes. So the Flam 5 in this solo happens in two very distinct spots. In the performance, I have the actual written transcription of that 3-bar section there, so you can read along, but I'm going to break it down a lot slower so you can see where those two spots actually happen, as well as the phrases that sort of surround those two parts and transition each one into each other. 1, 2, 3, and 4, and So by breaking it down slowly there, you can see the two spots where the Flam 5 is happening. First part of it is fairly close to the beginning of the solo, coming out of the floor tom section. And then the second is leading up into the high tom, going into the barks on the hi-hat that come out of that. But to get a further look into this, if you're not even sure, just by looking at it and watching where the Flam 5 is, or even what it is, let's go down to the pad and we're going to start breaking this down. So if you're unfamiliar with the Flam 7, I think it's important to start there and understand how that pattern works and then compare it to how it's going to work for the Flam 5. So really slowly, here's the Flam 7. So at its most basic core, the Flam 7 is a compound sticking, which is essentially comprised of two smaller subgroupings. So it's a group of 4 and a group of 3. Now you can do them in any order, but the way that I've got it phrased here is the group of 4 to start, followed by the group of 3. The group of 4 is basically, at its core, a flam paradiddle with the left hand flamming, followed by a group of 3 with the right hand accenting and 2 doubles in the left. Now, the group of 4, there's a couple things you need to expand upon with that. Firstly, the flam is a little bit more of an open flam. So normally when we're playing the Flam 7, we're doing it on the drum set. So we're splitting the hands between 2 different surfaces, and we still want to accentuate the surface that we're playing in the right, even though the flam is the left. So we want to open the flam up, accent both hands, and then accent the second note, which is a right, again afterward. So now that group of 4 should sound like this, followed by the group of 3. Now, to me, this is a fairly simple pattern when you break it down the way that I just did, but simple doesn't necessarily mean that it's easy. If you haven't gathered by now, the tough part about this phrase is that you've got, coming out of the group of 3 at the end, 2 doubles in the left, but it's followed by coming back to the first note on your flam in the left hand. So normally, a lot of phrases that we might play on the drums, it's more comfortable to finish with 2 doubles in one hand, followed by an accent in the opposite hand. But here, we have to pull an accent out after 2 double strokes. And ultimately, that's really what makes this pattern extremely difficult to develop at first. But I tell my students in a lot of cases, go back to the drum rudiments. When you go back to just basic drum rudiments on the, the list of 26 or the list of 40, it really helps you to understand not only where the different phrases and parts of our vocabulary that we play on the drum set come from, but it also will tell you little things in your techniques that you need to work on in order to develop these furthering phrases. So for me, I look at a pattern like the Flam Paradiddle Diddle as a really good pattern that you can use to help develop the skills, not only for the Flam 7, but for what we're going to get into with the Flam 5. So the paradiddle diddle sticking, that's one of the patterns you want to start with, is right, left, left, left. And it normally repeats back to the same hand. So you can try that with the right hand. You can also try it in the left. When we play it as a flammed phrase though, the pattern alternates the starting hand. So if I start with a right-handed flam, it has to come back over to the left side. And obviously, if I keep it going, you'll see that difficult phrase that is similar to the Flam 7, where I've got the double in one hand, followed by an accented flam at the beginning of the next phrase with the same hand. So in short, I guess what I'm trying to tell you is never disregard your rudiments. Always make sure that you go back through your rudiments, because there are a lot of little subtle things in each of these different patterns that you've got in front of you that are going to help you for a lot of these other more advanced phrases we're working on. But enough about that. Let's actually get on to the Flam 5. So this is the whole reason we're here. We're going to talk about the Flam 5. But having broken down the Flam 7, this is going to help us to understand how the Flam 5 is going to work. And the Flam 5, just like the Flam 7, is a compound grouping or a compound sticking. So in this case, it being a group of 5, it's comprised of a group of 2 and a group of 3. I'm going to play it for you, and then let's break it down and analyze it. Okay, let's break down what we have here. So first off, it starts the exact same way as the Flam 7. We're playing a left-handed flam, but with the accented grace note in the right hand. But now, unlike the Flam 7, which went to a right-handed accent immediately after, this is actually going to be a left following that accented flam. But then we just finish off with the same phrase as the Flam 7 in the group of 3. It's a right, accented right, followed by double lefts. So open left-handed flam, left hand, right hand accent, and doubles in the left. And there you go, that's the Flam 5. Now, if you remember at the beginning of this video, I mentioned that the Flam 5, in my opinion, is harder to perform than the Flam 7. And if you haven't figured it out already, let's check out why. So to quickly go back to the Flam 7, we finish off with 2 doubles in the left, and then it comes right back to the accented flam in the left hand. The most amount of consecutive notes we're playing at one time is 3 in that left hand. So double with another accent, okay? So that's tough enough. But if you break it down with the Flam 5, if you were to repeat it, you're going to finish off with 2 doubles in the left, followed by an accent back at the beginning with the left hand, and then immediately followed after with another left as an unaccented note. So realistically, you're playing 4 notes in a row in your left hand, going unaccented, unaccented, accented, unaccented. So developing that pattern can be pretty tough, again, if you're not used to pulling out the accent with that molar whip in your left hand. So just that exercise alone, or playing that alone, is a big workout for your left hand, or if you're left to your right hand, or however you want to play this phrase. But ultimately, that technique takes a lot of development and time to build. Developing the left, 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 left. So it's not just 4 notes in a row. I think in most cases, especially if you're developing molar stroke action, understanding playing 4 strokes in a row, yeah, it can be pretty simple and pretty straight ahead to initially learn, but then to incorporate those whipping actions on your accented hand after playing 2 doubles and then play 1 more note, I don't know, that's probably one reason what makes Vinnie, Vinnie. So shy of just simply repeating it on the drum set and moving it around the drums in different ways, I think a really good aspect of playing this pattern and understanding it even more is combining it within some other similar group of 5 phrases, much like how Vinnie does in his solo. Sometimes when you repeat a pattern, especially in a solo, it can kind of be beaten to death. It also can kind of be too repetitive. And sometimes you want to be able to have that phrase not necessarily being the main focus of the dish, so to speak, but maybe just be the sprinkle of salt or the little bit of spice that just enhances what you're already playing on the kit. So why don't we start to break down just a very simple way that you can incorporate this phrase into maybe a fill or just a decent straight ahead idea, and ultimately try to just get more comfortable with it and absorb that into your own playing. So here's a section that's literally just from Vinnie's solo that I took and isolated over one bar, basically repeat it and utilize that as a way for me to understand how the Flam Five is going to fit not only into my playing, but ultimately within a phrase that's similar with other groups of five. Or you can even try it as a one bar fill. You can even start experimenting with your orchestrations by subbing out your toms for crash cymbals and kicks. And there you have it, a bit of a diamond in the rough, so to speak. A pattern that I think has flown under the radar for maybe a lot of drummers out there. And maybe for some of you, you've known about this pattern before, but maybe didn't know the ins and outs or the building blocks of it so much so, and where it kind of comes from and what it's related to. So I'm more than happy to have brought this video to you today, and I hope that by learning this phrase or playing it, it not only helps enhance your own playing, but it gives you a lot more creative outlets for you to be able to expand what you already do on the drum set. So thanks for watching. If you like this video, click like. If you really like it, click subscribe, and hope to see you back here again.